Well, howdy. You've been hearing me or reading me say repeatedly that we have a choice every moment to walk by the Spirit or walk by the flesh. And I know I probably sound like a broken record, but your choice is a matter of life and death. Today, I'm going to help you understand, hopefully, what the Bible means when it talks about the flesh. We see the word flesh used in several different ways in the Bible. It can refer to the humanity of Jesus Christ, our physical body, can refer to mankind, just any living person, or it can refer to man's selfish attitude or mindset and the resulting behavior. And it's this last example, man's selfish mindset, that the Bible refers to as being opposed to the Holy Spirit. Galatians 5:17 says, "For the flesh sets its desire against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. For these are in opposition to one another, so that you may not do the things that you please." Now, previously, we defined walking according to the flesh as any activity done independent of God. But now I want to give you a little bit more comprehensive description of the flesh. I'm just going to read this to you. Flesh may be described as one's mindset of selfish thinking and the resulting patterns of behavior. These patterns of behavior are activated when I choose to believe Satan's lies and act out of my own resources in order to cope with life, solve my problems, or meet my needs. The flesh is always focused primarily on self. My resources include things such as my heritage, my education, IQ, personality, sense of humor, looks, talents, abilities, money, self-discipline, strength, associations, etc. In other words, it's me living my life attempting to get my needs met independent of Christ. Flesh patterns can be described simply as habitual patterns of thinking and behaving that are used to get our God-given inner needs. Now, we're often unaware of these destructive patterns of behavior, and oftentimes they become our default mode of functioning. There's some basic truths and characteristics of the flesh that would be very helpful for you to know, but I'm not going to recite them all on this video. However, you can read them in the article that appears on our website just under this video. And you can also read them in even more detail in the article Understanding the Flesh, also on our website, whynotchooselife.com. But I do want to call your attention to a couple of things about the flesh. Our flesh is driven by our neediness. We are a need-driven creature. Remember, we all have God-given needs to be loved and accepted and secure and significant and all those things we've talked about several times. And having these needs met is what makes us feel valuable. In other words, gives us a sense of life. And what makes us feel valuable is what we use more often than not to determine our identity. Also remember that these needs and desires are only met in the person of Christ. When we receive Christ by faith, we have everything we need for life. You might say that more accurately, Christ becomes our life and we are complete or made full in Him and Him alone. Now, a friend of mine used to say it like this. He said it's rigged. In other words, interpretation. Man can't get what he so desperately wants and needs apart from Christ. I think God had a plan there. And remember, Satan tries to get you to believe you're missing something that you need, and then he tries to get you to fulfill that need by your doing, which is always done according to your flesh. And when you believe that lie, it's going to put you on a performance treadmill, as we've talked about. And it will not and it cannot produce life, only death. And the other thing I want to mention is that your flesh is always proud. When walking according to your flesh, you will have a great difficulty admitting that you're wrong or admitting any kind of weakness or failures that you may have. Because when you're walking according to your flesh, it's always concerned about what other people think. Folks, God does not desire us to become super Christians because we can't. He wants us to walk in total dependence on Him by allowing Christ to live His life in us and through us. The Gospel of John, Jesus said, "Apart from me, you can do nothing of any spiritual value." So I want to wrap this up with a couple of quotes from the late Mike Wells, and then I want to tell you a story. Mike Wells said this. He said, "What do you believe that God expects out of you? Do you really think that the depths to which you've sunk have surprised Him? He knows you. The problem is you don't know yourself. And until you do know yourself, you're going to continue to trust in, cling to, and rely on yourself. Let God leave you for just one moment. Let Him subdue the Holy Spirit within you, and you'll see what you are really apart from Him." He also said there's no great men of God. There are only weak men with a great God. Folks, as Christians, we're not improving. We are simply learning to allow Jesus to live his life through us. We're all weak. The best of us is weak and incapable of producing life on his own. So let me finish with this story. True story. Maybe 6-8 years ago, I was praying and I told God I would not become defensive when my wife said something I didn't like. And I really meant that. But you know, it wasn't 15 minutes until my wife said something I didn't like, and I got very defensive and I said some very unkind things. I felt so defeated. I told the Lord, I give up. I can't do this. I believe that was music to his ears. I think that's exactly what he wanted. Well, shortly after that, the same scenario presented itself. But this time it was like time just stood still. I heard the voice of the enemy in my mind loud and clear, and it went something like this. Are you going to let her get away with that? If you do, she's going to walk all over you. You better get her straightened out right now. Now, all this happened in just a few seconds, but it seemed like everything was going in slow motion. And then I heard the Holy Spirit speak to me. He said, how's that been working for you? Wow. Well, this time I decided to keep my mouth closed, which is almost always a good choice, and just walk away. And I did. And when I made that decision to do that, before I even did it, the peace of God flooded over me. And all of a sudden, trying to defend myself suddenly became very unimportant. I was experiencing Christ's life at that moment. I was walking according to his Holy Spirit and not my flesh. Folks, the things that I've been sharing with you can change your life. I know because they've changed mine. And if you're not getting what I've been saying in this series, pray and ask God to open your eyes and your heart to these truths. You can also send me a question via the comment section on our website, and I'll try to answer that for you. So until next time, remember, you have before you life and death, so why not choose life? Thanks again for listening. God bless.